For us, it's really not about replacing those humans, replacing that human relationship. It's all about that enhancement, right? To be as automated as possible so we can spend more time with those face-to-face conversations.
Hello. This is the Marketing for Accounting Firms podcast, where we sometimes talk about marketing for accounting firms, but really we talk about what it's like to run and operate a firm here in, I guess we're talking in 2025. I have Mike Libby on the show today. Mike, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely a pleasure. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Mike, give us the high level. What does your practice look like? Who are you? Give us the context of where we are today.
Sure, absolutely. So high level, I'm partner and COO at YBL, run it alongside my dad, also knows Ross. But it helps with the context and it certainly helps with the story. So we're a team of about 35 of us right now. We work completely virtually, although we do have some legacy clients that we see face-to-face, time to time, which I know for some people is astounding in today's world, but we're holding on to a few of those by design. But 35 of us all across Canada. We've got a few people in different countries working, whether they're on vacation for extended vacation, or they're working in Philippines or India or Dubai. We got a team of about 35 right now working virtually.
You mentioned your dad. Is he the one that started the firm? And maybe give us a little background, your story of how you got it. Where did it start and how did you get involved?
Absolutely. So let's go all the way back.
All the way.
So yes, he did start the firm in 2004, actually. So about 21 years ago now. He actually started with a partner originally, and they started it to effectively just provide virtual CFO services to a few very large clients. Like they did not plan on going this wide and where we are today. And so that was a bit of a side hustle for them. They really only wanted to have 5 or 10 clients. And of course, they'll do my family and friends tax returns and all that jazz. You know how that story goes. And while that was happening, completely, genuinely, coincidentally, I was taking accounting in high school, thinking it was easy. How naive of me. It surely was not. And I actually did not genuinely, it sounds crazy, but I genuinely did not realize it's really what my dad was doing. He's talking VCFO stuff. And so then again, I take accounting in college before I go to university, naively thinking it's extremely easy. And yeah, you know what? I breezed right through this in high school. Why wouldn't I do that in college and university? Ultimately, what ended up happening was my dad was building his business. It became a full-time business. I was coming back for the summers. So I went to college in Niagara Falls in Canada, and I went to university online. But he was building the business as a side business, and it became his kind of full-time gig. So his role, he was prior controller, financial officer, and all that fun stuff. And I came back, and I'd done some tax returns for him over the years, just during college, during university. And what ended up really happening was I would go out there and I would try and find a job in accounting, funny enough, to just sit behind a desk and not talk to anybody because I didn't want to talk to anybody or do anything, as I'm on a podcast right now.
Yeah.
Times have changed. And so what they saw on the resume every time was they see that you worked for your dad. Why aren't you working for your dad now?
Yeah.
And I didn't have an answer. Right? I genuinely did not have an answer. And so I went home the Friday night after I had a third round of interviews in Toronto at this gig, actually at a marketing agency. And I asked him, I was like, I actually don't have an answer to this question. What am I supposed to be saying? Why am I not working with my dad? And we talked about it the entire weekend, who, what, when, where, why. And I started on Monday morning, and the rest is just history from that. And so it's in his mind, and in both of our minds, quite frankly, he had thought that I was going to go out there, get that experience, then bring it on back. He didn't have any employees. That partner that he was with in the beginning was not even there. It was genuinely just him, a couple subcontractors he'd pull in kind of ad hoc as needed. So it was really me being that full-time kind of bookkeeper on day one, learning trial by fire. So I could dig a whole lot more about the path since then, but that's how we started.
I'm curious then, he was in this kind of CFO role. You came into the firm. There's kind of 2 parts to this question. One, I'm interested in whenever there's family dynamics, navigating, sometimes that's a great thing. You can communicate better on certain things, and you've got this stable relationship backing up all the business side of things. On the other hand, every kid has a relationship with their parents, and that can get complicated. And I'm assuming you brought in this is the second piece. So I'm interested, how have you navigated those family dynamics? And then what changed? What about the business changed in the direction that it went when you got involved? Because it sounds like you're not just doing that CFO stuff anymore.
No, we're certainly not. And so it was interesting. God bless my dad. He if he was capable of doing something, he would do it, right? You hear in today's world, niche, only do things and ignore the rest. And so we all had to start somewhere. And so that's really how it happened, right? Sure, he's doing the CFO work for these 5 large companies. Family, friends, personal taxes, they're telling people and all doing 500 personal tax returns with the bookkeeping, with kind of lower level advisory, payroll, etc. I was just a jack of all trades in that time where he'd say, yeah, we can do it. And I would figure it out and I would do it. Fortunately, I'd figure it out and I was helping with the processes in every part of that. I walked in and I was like, how do you not even have a list of all of the tax returns you're doing? So I created all the processes, all the operations and stuff. And so to jump back to the family time, it's interesting because had you have asked me in high school if I'd be working with my dad, not a chance. Absolutely not a chance. I was your typical kind of high school kid, not listening to my parents, doing this, doing that. And so it's funny how this all kind of unfolded. And we have an incredible relationship. We always have. It's worked tremendously well. And we always say we pick our battles, right? And we say that, and that is the reality. But ultimately, we don't really need to pick battles. Like, we really understand it. It puts a lot of faith in me. And it's worked out tremendously well for both of us. And so we really just keep that going. It's not just me and him, right? So a few years into the business, we expanded, we grew, we were hiring, we moved into an office, we expanded offices and so on and so forth. And we brought my mom, who I will call Sue, but again, it helps with the contact. She joined on board alongside another senior accountant that she worked with for the past 25 years at another mid-sized accounting firm in Toronto. So we brought her on board. We then also brought my uncle on board, and he actually just recently passed away, which is very terribly unfortunate, but he was a tremendous asset to the team. Then we brought my sister-in-law on board as a contractor, kind of trial by fire with that as well. And so it really is deeply rooted in a family business. We're very fortunate that we have these relationships. So we've been very happy with the way that this has all transpired and unraveled and unfolded.
Since you've hired so much family, the awkward question I would always ask is, have you ever had to let family go? Has that?
No. Thank goodness.
Okay. How about even just like the performance side of things? Has that been an issue, or do you just feel like the communication's been good and you all have navigated it organically?
I would say the latter. It's always very good. I think this is quite frankly just the way that it's worked. But we've got my mom, we've got my sister-in-law. They're both our kind of main admins here. My uncle, who was main project manager, helping and so on and so forth. And then you got Ross, who's my dad. Everybody is, sign me up. Sounds good. I'm happy to. So it actually, if anything, it makes the reviews harder, not from an awkward personal dynamic, but more that, God bless them, they just want to help in every way they possibly can. And they're all tremendous assets to the team, which is also just as important. And you'll notice that when I said we hired my sister-in-law, it was as much about, okay, let's bring you in for a bit of a tax season on a contract basis and see how this goes. And she did incredibly well. And so we basically couldn't wait to say, hey, let's do this full time as long as you understand the dynamic, the situation. And it's worked out very well. But everybody's just down for the cause and very happy to help in every possible way.
Yeah. So whenever in any firm, not just family, when there's family involved, but you have different leadership styles or roles within the firm, I think you run a lot of the day-to-day of the firm at this point in the firm's life cycle and your career. What is it that you focus most of your time and energy on? Where are your strengths?
Yeah. So over the past, I would say 3 years, I've really spent an aggressive amount of time working myself out of a job. And what I mean by that is delegation processes, SOPs, right? Only we know this. It's impossible for somebody else to know or do this as good as we're doing it. That is the case until you put it on paper and you really spend that time. And most people just unfortunately aren't really spending that time, right? Even if you're just doing a tax return or you're doing the XYZ, whatever that might be, record yourself. That's the easiest way to do it. And you're just talking to yourself and then boom, you've got a ridiculous amount of kind of AI and systems and stuff that could just automatically create that into a beautiful SOP. But being able to do that and spend the time to focus on that delegation has really been a gigantic unlock for us. I'm actually no longer client facing whatsoever. I deal primarily with kind of operations. I'm the quote unquote face of the business. I'm doing everything to drum up revenue and lead generation, whether that's different tools or whether that's ensuring we're focusing on the proper marketing strategies and really taking a look at the ROI and things of that nature. So by design, I really don't want to do the tax prep, the tax work. And I had that conversation with my dad, funny enough, probably about 10 years ago, where I said, I'm not a CPA. And even though I went to school and then university all for accounting and bachelor's and all that fun stuff, I said, I need you to understand. You're understandably of the mindset that this is going to grow into that traditional partner firm. You've got your silo, you've got your silo, you've got your silo. Said, I have absolutely no interest in just reviewing tax returns until the end of time and hitting that ceiling and that cap of having 100 or 1,000 clients underneath me. And that's it. That's all.
Yeah.
And that was very startling for him to hear at that point. But it wasn't my path. I love the people. I love the operations. I love the technology. I love the infrastructure. I love setting things up to scale.
Yeah.
Right. I can do it. I went from bookkeeper to payroll person to accountant to senior accountant to operation. I can do corporate taxes, personal taxes, all of the above. I just don't love it. I don't love that. I love the business running part of that.
Yeah. And now that you've been in each of those roles, you can empathize. And I imagine it's helpful just in terms of from a leadership standpoint. I think that's the right way. As you grow with your firm, growing your business, you're always, as long as you're in production, there's an element of trading time for money. And that's going to always limit your ability to grow and scale at some point. It's interesting. We obviously come at things mostly from a marketing perspective for accounting firms, but a lot of times there's no point in firms marketing because they haven't figured out how to deal with the processes and the people side of things. And bringing more business into the firm doesn't solve those problems. More revenue is always good, but it can actually sometimes exacerbate the problems because if people aren't getting good service, then they're going out the back door, even as you fill the front. And that, I don't know, this is why, even with this podcast, Marketing for Accounting Firms, it's only, all of these pieces are connected in different ways. You have to have good lead flow, but you have to have good leadership processes, SOPs, and all that. And if you can build that foundation, it makes that other side of things so much easier because you can fill the funnel without worrying that it's going to overload the team and all that. Let me just put the question this way. Since you've been involved in the firm, is there one decision that you've made as a business that you feel like has had the biggest impact on where you are today?
Yes. I mean, there's a few that certainly come to mind, but I would say the biggest real unlock for us was hiring that very first person. And it was one of those battles that I had to pick because my dad, again, God bless him, he said, we don't need to do that. We're fine. We'll just work more nights and more weekends. And I'm like, I don't really want to do that. Yeah, I'm doing that, working 120 hours a day in tax season, but I don't want to do that year round. And so he's a penny pincher. He's making sure we're not overspending. And that's what accountants do, buy this for better or worse. But I was like, no, I basically presented it. I outlined, here's exactly why this makes sense. And he's like, fine, I'll trust you on this one. Let's take that leap of faith. Let's hire that first person. And the unlock was so powerful.
Who was that first person? What was the role?
Her name was Christine. She was our office administrator at that time. So she was, again, jack of all trades. We call you office admin, and here's a little box. Here's all these other things you're doing for us completely outside that box, right? When it's only three of you, it really changes the game. And that for us was it was transformative. So we were able to then focus on those things, right? Because we were massive on networking, getting our name out there, in-person events endlessly. Our names were and continue to be very well known, fortunately, in this community. And so what ended up happening was he was really seeing the light and saying, okay, Christine can do this, that, and this for us. Now I can spend more time doing what I love, which for him is that genuine networking, human connection piece. And so there you go. Now you've got that many more clients. But that's where you get that piece where you're talking about that good problem, too many clients. And so it's okay. Now let's step back and say, who do we need to hire? What structure do we need to create? What processes do we need to wrap around this to make sure we're able to properly take care of all of these people that are running in the door for us?
Yeah. Once you start hiring, the nature of the business is entirely different. And so that first hire, and you said you have a team of 35 at this point. How much time between that first hire and now?
When did we hire Christine? I would say about 11 years.
Okay.
10 years maybe, actually. And so we hired Christine, then we hired a few more people, and then we expanded. And what really had that significant growth piece was the unfortunate situation we've heard too much about was the COVID pandemic. We were well positioned from a technology standpoint to say, we're virtual now. So there was a flood of people in our networking circles that were saying basically, my accountant cannot help me, cannot do this. And people were just truly running in the doors. We pivoted, created a whole bunch of Facebook communities to support people. And that, again, was just another one of those unlocks to help us grow.
Now, does your firm have a specialization or niche at this point? What kind of clients do you usually work with?
We have 4 verticals where that's real estate and ancillaries. So that's your agents, your brokers, healthcare, professional services, as well as construction. So those are the 4 kind of primary verticals that we've got. Well, we work with many people in e-com and other industries. Those are the primary ones we're focused on.
Yeah. What are your goals? Where do you think you're going?
So we have some pretty lofty goals, and you know what? They change as time goes on. We are big on EOS. It's 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year goals. One of the big goals for us is to 10 times in 10 years. And so we are looking at mergers and acquisitions. We are in kind of active process, which we'd like to do that on a regular basis, grow, expand. But for us, it's really not just about that top line. It's much more about the bottom line, as YBL, your bottom line would have you believe. And people, right? As much about the team, as much about the clients. We want to work with only good people across the board. And that's extremely important for us. Even, again, whether you're looking at acquisitions or whether you're just looking at client intake and things of that nature, very important for us.
Yeah. I know a lot of our listeners are, I think most of them are in the US, not all of them. Just for my own curiosity, what do you see, if there is any difference between running a firm in Canada versus what you know about US-based firms?
I can't get into the nuance of that because I genuinely don't know, but I have plenty of friends in the US that are running firms, running fantastic modern progress. That's just inspiring in every kind of way. And honestly, I think there is, from my lens or perspective, there's a ton of overlap. We're all returns, we're all doing corporate returns, we're doing bookkeeping, we're punching numbers, we're helping advise. So there is a lot of overlap in the best kind of way. Who knows, maybe we'll end up opening a firm in the US, whether it's virtual or not. But no, there's a ton of overlap, and there's a ton of communities that have helped us from that perspective, whether you're talking about Chad Davis's Automation Town, which has been genuinely transformative, Jason Stats Realize, or Ryan Lazanis' Future Firm. Those have been major for us in helping us see the light and helping us guide the firm in the right direction. So that's helped a lot.
Yeah, I feel like we've really... I come from the outside. I serve accounting firms, but I've been involved with like tax Twitter community. That's where we connected originally. And I followed Jason and all that. It seems like it's very much the era of communities right now within the accounting profession. And what I love about that is and I'm sure it's not happening in every circle, but we've moved into this space where I'm going to wax poetic a little bit here. As the internet has been harder to use, right? SEO, it's funny because I think I'm the world's most cynical marketer sometimes. I think SEO kind of ruined the internet in many ways. It's harder to find good information out there. Social media, it can be a roller coaster, but it's not great. A lot of times it's not good for us. I think we know all this. But what people have been finding is that I don't know if we're retreating or just like investing into these smaller communities of peers. And what I love about it, though, is that it feels like there's a real thread of collaboration and wanting everybody to get better rather than just thinking about it as competition. We've all been at those networking events or professional things where it seems like everyone's trying to sell to everybody else, but no one's talking to each other or like actually seeking to help. And what I see over and over again these days is these communities are coming together and growing. And there's just a lot of generosity in them, which I think is really great for us as business owners because it can be kind of lonely when you're running it by yourself, but you find these other places where people are hanging out. You mentioned those communities. What are your thoughts on that and what's been really valuable to you?
Yeah, and funny enough, we call that co-opetition. I can't say enough good things about the accounting community, and you hit the nail on the head. It is definitely a community-driven industry, and certainly it's for communities to exist. There is a plethora of options wherever you are. You even got Logan Graff's Counter, which is kind of people starting their new accounting firms and stuff as well. So this is very exciting. Never has there been such a time where people have been so generous with what they're sharing, as well as just generically being able to find that information. The tough part right now, if anything, is sifting through it and saying, okay, where should I spend my money? Where should I spend my time? I am admittedly in way too many communities that I'm not getting my money's worth, and that's nobody's fault but my own. And it's just, I want to support these people as much as anything, so much. Like you go to, again, to come back to them, which Chad Davis is, I have been able to just learn so much from the people there to build apps, to streamline my processes. We were fortunate enough to win the Karbon AI award, and I would basically dedicate that to Automation Town. It allowed us to build all of these things we built. Then you got Jason Stats Realize, where I'm part of different masterminds and I'm learning from these people, learning from the community in very much real time. Ryan Lazanis has helped us refine our packages and processes. So sift through it all and find out what works best for you. But importantly, and this is going to be something that you'll resonate with, importantly, not what makes sense to me and what I think is the best. It's what will my ideal clients think is appropriate for them, right? I'm not just sitting up here and saying, this is what's happening, here's where we are, and so on and so forth. I got a team of brilliant professionals that are working alongside me that are helping us make those decisions in real time and sifting through every, you know what, that's it. Or collaborating with our A clients to say, what about this? We're thinking about that. And bringing them into the mix in real time, and they love that and appreciate that. And they come to YBL and know that we're big on kind of innovation, transformation, and really just helping them see the light from a full picture perspective. So it's been exciting. It's been very exciting. And I cannot say enough good things about the accounting industry and how willing people are to help and share.
Yeah, no, that's great. We're going to take a break here. We're going to drop some ads into the podcast that helps us produce this show. And then we're going to come back. I want to talk a little bit about some of the tactics and the technology that you're using in your firm.
Awesome.
This podcast is brought to you in part by TeamUp. TeamUp is a recruiting firm that helps you hire direct in the Philippines. But how do you hire in the Philippines? Do you need to understand Philippine employment law? There really are two main options. You can hire a contractor where you pay them directly and they handle their own tax and compliance. Or you can work with an employee of record, similar to a PEO. They handle the payroll and compliance. They pay the employee, you pay them, but they aren't involved in any of the day-to-day work or management of your employee. TeamUp is not an employment of record, but they can refer you to one if you want. Either way, the day-to-day experience is the same. If you've been considering hiring in the Philippines, but you're worried about everything being above board from an employment and compliance standpoint, TeamUp can help guide you through that process. You can learn more at hireteamup.com. Again, that is hireteamup.com. This podcast is brought to you in part by Works. Here's the thing. Clients don't love having a hodgepodge of a bunch of different advisors. Really, they would love it if they could get the advice that they need from one trusted source, and that source could be you. Offering payroll through Works allows you to become more of that advisor. Whether you're referring your clients or you're building a payroll practice of your own, Works will deliver the back office strength and support that your clients expect, and you can stay as the hero and trusted advisor in their story. Learn more about how to partner with Works at works.com. That's WHIRKS.com. All right, welcome back. Marketing for Accounting Firms, the podcast. Mike Libby is here today. And Mike, tell us about your tech stack. What are you using? I'm sure there's a whole bunch of things. You don't have to list everything, but what are the most important tools and technologies for you in running your practice?
I would say there's 4 main heavy hitters. We've got Karbon. Karbon is genuinely the backbone of our business. We were one of the first firms, fortunately, to have signed on board with Karbon about 8-9 years ago. Not realizing we were one of the first, and kind of point of contact there was like, yeah, you were really one of the first. We were building it real time, right? I was like, no, but good for you guys for making it. And I'm eternally grateful to find out what was the best spot to hang out with from a practice management workflow system. We thought it was just a CRM. So now we know, and they've actually just announced some tremendous news. They just acquired Aider, which is very exciting too. So that's going to be a major unlock too. So Karbon is really the backbone from a practice management perspective. The second piece of our puzzle, I would say, is Keeper. So we use Keeper to automate our monthly closes. We have a lot of our VCFOs in there, our virtual CFO clients, where we're providing them reports. It was able to consolidate a bunch of apps into one spot. So it gives us reports, uncategorized transactions, real-time reports, tremendous value there. And the team at Keeper, I can't say enough good things about them. They're moving at warp speed right now. So that's very exciting. The third one is the silent backbone, I would say, of our business, and that's Notion. So that's where we've got our knowledge bases. That's where we've got our employees' information. They just came out with some fancy new AI agents, so I'm excited to play with that. It's impossible to keep up with this stuff, but we do our best to try, right?
Yes.
So Notion is another kind of big silent backbone, as I'll call it there, where we can do some very exciting things in there. And that's moving at warp speed now too, which is exciting to see. The fourth one is an easy, simple one, but that's QuickBooks Online. So we are exclusive with QuickBooks Online. We got about 900 clients in there. varying degrees of complexity, whether we're just supporting them all the way up to kind of day-to-day CFO type work in there. But we couldn't do it without certainly all four of those, and obviously some other kind of minor things around the way. But those are really the four heaviest hitters for us, I'd say.
Are you personally using AI in your work, or is that something that you're integrating and teaching your team to start playing around with? What's that look like?
Yeah, so personally and professionally, I'm addicted, for better or worse.
Yep.
So for the team, I would say we've been doing AI trainings for quite some time, where we're really just digging into what's possible, what's capable, where are the guardrails, what's coming up on the horizon, what's changing. Let's make sure everybody is as equipped as they possibly can to be able to help with these. And I want them to really be able to spot these efficiencies. One of the biggest things for me was, okay, ChatGPT is released. What the heck do I do? What kind of questions do I even ask it? Where do I begin? And so it really became this moment where, as I dug and pushed and prodded and looked into, again, communities and things of that nature to really learn stuff, there were just massive unlocks. And so now we're really digging into that. And we have many people internally who are digging into that as much as they possibly can to just streamline every part of our process. It is also important, and I owe it to anybody who's listening to say it in the same breath, that for us, it's really not about replacing those humans, replacing that human relationship. It's all about that enhancement, right? A back end to be as automated as possible so we can spend more time with those face-to-face conversations, virtually, of course. It is very important for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's such an important point. So as business owners, entrepreneurs, you and I think when we see something like AI, we see a lot of opportunity, right? Look at what we can do with this. And for a lot of our team, they see it as threats, right? Because they hear about this as, oh, it's going to take away my job or it's going to change what I have to do. People don't love to have to learn new technologies and to integrate that into their workflows. And so I think it's really important as leaders of teams for us to find ways to teach and educate, because I think that we have a responsibility to help our team members learn that we're in a new era. We know that this is going to impact and it's going to disrupt a lot of things in all kinds of sectors. I think in the marketing space, it's probably happening faster than it is in the accounting space, but it's coming. The other side of that, like you said, though, is I think the best use, especially in any business where it's a trust-based business, right? Accounting is trust-based. And trust is built usually between people, right? And as the technology accelerates what's possible, people still need that trusted guide, that like person that they can count on. And so automate away as much as you can. Use AI for as much as you can so that your people can be more human in their interactions and can be spending more of that face-to-face time, which is what I think we crave. As your clients crave that, I think we crave that as business owners through these communities and all that. So that's the promise of it. I think there's obviously some fear around how AI is going to be implemented. There's also a lot of skepticism, I know, in the accounting industry specifically about how well, or how tech guys are always saying this is going to completely automate away everything that you do. People in the accounting field, I feel, keep saying, hey, if you can do that, good on you. But I don't think it's going to happen. Do you have an opinion on this?
I do. I absolutely do, ultimately. And it's funny, to cap off that other piece, we almost created a bit of an army of vibe coders because they saw some of the tools I was building and creating. They got so excited. They were all coming up with as many ideas as they could. So just being able to see what's possible is the transformative kind of piece here. And so insofar as that human experience and that client experience, it's catch ourselves every once in a while where we have to pare back and we say, we've gone too far. Sure, this is efficient, but what is efficiency? Have we circumvented the humans a little bit too much in this process? And so that's very important and very delicate balance, quite frankly. Now, when you're talking about jobs, whether it's a controversial take or not, and I'm not even talking about accounting, I am of the belief that in 10, 20, 30 years, like, the whole landscape's going to change, right? The jobs we have today, I would say 25 to 50% of them are going to be either completely gone or completely transformed into something wildly different. I'm not even, that's a hot take, or that's what people are just fully expecting at this point, depending on how much your finger's on the pulse. But I think it's just inevitable. The writing's on the wall. That's why we're doing everything we can to transform our services at the same time, leaning more into the advisory, that there's a little bit less emphasis placed on that data entry piece to an extent. I mean, God bless. We need all of these people for everything. And I have no intentions of firing or letting anybody go just because I'm replacing them. It's how can we transform your role into a
Yeah.
different role or different capabilities or something unique or different that we can capitalize on, whether that is just the human experience. So it's going to be very interesting times. It is absolutely undeniably inevitable that a lot of jobs will be lost, full stop. So it can be scary. It absolutely can be scary. And so you need to be, I wouldn't even say at the forefront, but you need to at least do your best to try and keep up with it and see where this is going. Because this stuff is moving like light speed is not fast enough to say. It doesn't even do it justice with how fast it's moving.
Yeah, I'm online and we're using AI obviously in a lot of our stuff. I'm a big reader and podcast listener myself. So I feel like I'm very well informed on what is happening in this landscape. It's like literally my job in many ways, and I can't keep up with it. There's too much happening too fast. But I think it is great for you and for other firm owners who are encouraging and giving opportunity and space for their team to get comfortable with this, because I think at the very least, we know that it's not that AI is going to replace every job, but in the midterm, the most likely thing is that people who know how to use AI are going to be replacing people who refuse or don't know. And so you're setting your team up for a lot of success, and your firm, I think, by creating space to explore that right now.
I would genuinely feel like I was doing them a disservice to not push them ever so lovingly in understanding where the world, the industry, the technology is going. And so it's just been amazing to see some people who you really wouldn't expect to just take it. Whether it's just ChatGPT transforming an email or doing research for you or building an app or doing whatever that might be, just to see some of these people's eyes light up and say, holy smokes.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
exciting and it's promising to see that for sure.
Yeah. Let's switch and chat a little bit about the sales and marketing side. How have you grown, or how currently are you growing your business, finding new clients? Are you doing anything to qualify them specifically? What kind of clients you're taking on? Just talk me through what the landscape looks like for your firm.
Absolutely. So we actually did a major rebrand at the end of 2024, and that was very exciting. It was funny because I had a conversation at an accounting conference, funny enough, where it was in the States, and we were chatting with this gal, and she'd searched us up. We had a fantastic conversation. She came back the next day, and she said, I got to be candid with you guys. It was me and Ross, my dad, who were there. You guys are amazing. Your website and your logo are terrible. And it was funny because my dad was like, he's like, oh my God, like he was so offended. That was his baby, right? And it had been my baby for 14 years too. So I lived and breathed it as well. But I could agree. It was your typical kind of arrow up with your bar charts and this and that. It was like green, and it was just so outdated. And I did everything as much as I could with our current logo, to keep that up to date and keep that modern-ish. And it served its purpose, but we ripped that Band-Aid off. We shortened it from Your Bottom Line to YBL. We completely honed in on who our ideal client was, every part of that. And that's been fantastic, right? People who are either just seeing us out in the world, seeing our website, seeing our social presence, it really just speaks to who we are so much more. And so that's been a major unlock for us, because one of the main things we knew getting into this was, okay, great. Maybe we have 30 leads a day, 30 leads a month, whatever that might be. I'm okay getting 3 instead of 30. They're our ideal client, and they're actually the perfect fit, because we're not wasting our time on potential kind of tire kickers or people who just aren't a good fit. Even a shot against these people, it's just we might not be for them, and it took us too long to figure that out. But the shorter we could make that funnel and that process, certainly all that you're talking about, just Calendly routing forms we have to link them to the appropriate person, make sure that we understand who they are. We're in the midst of rolling something out called the YBL Insight Analysis, which is effectively a paid discovery. You pay us X amount, we'll do a deep dive in your QuickBooks account, your government CRA accounts, and so on and so forth, provide you this extremely beautiful and comprehensive summary that's going to help us really fine-tune who we're looking for and understand who's walking in the door. The last thing we want is surprises, or somebody who, hey, they told us they were up to date, and all of a sudden we found out they were 5 years behind on their corporate tax returns. That's just not a good look for a multitude of reasons on either side. Nobody's happy when that happens.
Right.
So we've been streamlining processes, leaning into different kind of outcomes or different outputs when you're talking about kind of Google AdWords. Again, we're creating a bunch of tools that are helping significantly from a lead generation perspective. And GEO is a big one as well. So it's leaning into these different angles. And importantly, figuring out where these people are coming from to be able to lean into those angles that much more is helping us a lot.
When you say where they're coming from, are you talking about the actual channels that they find you? Yeah.
Exactly. It's word of mouth, whether it's Google, whether it's just the website, whether it's a referral from this person, for sure. Data is king by all means. So to be able to have that stuff and sort through those insights and be able to say, okay, this one's working, or our cost per click is XYZ, let's go all in on that avenue.
Let me go back just a little bit to the branding. I was on your website earlier today. It looks great. I think you guys have a really solid brand. A lot of business owners have this attitude of, we just want our reputation and our work to speak for itself. If we do a good job, we'll have a good reputation. People will come and see us. They don't use websites very much, or they don't use email marketing or whatever else. And so they can't imagine that their clients are. On the branding side, I think what you're doing well, and what I recommend other people check out the YBL website for sure. As an accounting firm, you got to meet a threshold of professionalism. You're an all virtual firm, right? So if your ideal client is someone who's comfortable with a virtual firm, it needs to look like a firm that knows what the internet looks like and how it works. That's going to be a trust builder for you. And I think your website and your branding really does that. If I was an e-commerce company or a professional services and I spend all my days at the computer, land on there, oh, these guys get me, they understand my life. But if you have that 15-year-old website, it has the phone number that they could call, maybe it does the job, but it's not making people feel confident that you're the right fit for them. So I imagine that has been a real benefit to you as well. That being said, I think that these days, like what it takes for most firms to get to that brand that is really going to serve them well enough, it's more about ripping off the Band-Aid than it is that the work itself is so like complicated and difficult. I don't know. What was that process? How long did the process take for you? Was it a good experience? Was it painful? Yeah.
Yes, all of the above. And we worked with this company based in the UK called WeRPF. And they were fantastic. Funny enough, they were at that conference that I mentioned previously, where they planted people there in the background. Yeah, Karen's fantastic. Planted somebody there to tell us our logo wasn't doing us a favor.
Ooh, that's a good marketing tactic. I should do that next time I go to a conference.
Well, it worked. It took us about 10 months. The biggest, I knew it needed to happen. Back to mine and Ross's or my dad's battles, right? This was my battle. I said, you know what? I understand you love this. But it doesn't speak to who we really are now. Speak to anybody in particular, importantly, right? And to be able to hone in on a little bit more of who we are was exciting as all hell to relay that internally as well. Like, you should have seen the team, like when we were behind the scenes, and then we slowly dripped the information. They were so excited and so proud to be part of this company and to really see where we're going, a honed in vision, honed in kind of just process. And one of the biggest unlocks that was strange for me to hear, but it was early in the process, was it's not about me, right? You need to like it and love the brand and all that fun stuff, but it's really not about me. Does it speak once again to that ideal audience? And that is imperative when you're going through these processes. So I wouldn't say it was painful. It took a lot of time, 100+ hours. We were meeting on a weekly basis to create our brand voice. Like, it wasn't just a website. It wasn't just a logo. By every part of who we are. What are our clients' fears? Do they want to use dark mode or light mode? Like, just what emojis are considered to be appropriate? Just deep, nuanced information, stuff that you would never think of yourself, but it makes sense. It makes complete sense. So it was costly. It was painful from a time spent perspective, but I absolutely do not regret it. I'm thrilled with the outcome, and it's really just changed the landscape for us for sure.
Yeah, that's great. And this is always a tricky question. Do you feel like this is something you could have done yourself, or was it valuable to work with a team that knew what they were doing?
No, I could not have done it myself. So my hesitation in my answer is a lot of ChatGPT really wasn't where it is today.
Yeah.
Even just 2 years ago when we started this, I am very fluent with it. Am I enough to think that I can just ChatGPT something and come up with where we landed today? Absolutely not. You need the professionals. Like, you can ChatGPT or Google how to populate a tax return. Does that mean that you're doing it properly or missing the gaps or the experience or the graphic design and all of those pieces? There's so much more to it. It would be very naive of me to think that I could just out the gate ask ChatGPT and get there. So I would definitely suggest hiring a professional for sure.
Yeah. We're in this interesting time with marketing in general, and specifically marketing for accounting firms, where you can do so much with the AI tools. And even in our business, we started to pivot in a lot of areas more towards guidance and coaching rather than just done for you type services, because a lot of firms have limited resources, or if they have a sharp person internally, there's a lot that you can do for your company without needing to hire an expensive marketing agency. But I think that the more mature your company is, the higher the stakes of getting it right. And when you're going through a rebrand, this is something you're going to live with for a long time. And so getting that right and getting everybody on the same page, I think working with a professional team has a huge value. And so there's this tension, this push and pull. And I think that you really nailed it, because that hesitation in your answer is, man, you can do so much with chat, but also you don't quite get everything because you don't have the depth of experience and context in that as well. So I think for every firm owner, balancing those two things out of what everything costs time or money, right? And with ChatGPT, the time feels like it can go down a lot, but you are missing out on, I think, some of that experience. And again, I think your brand is great. I think it's the sort of accounting firm that I would tell people to look at as something pretty aspirational for where they could be. I look at a lot of bad websites of accounting firms. And yeah, if you're an accountant who needs a new website, go look at Mike's and see what you could have. That's what I'm going to say.
Thank you.
And then come talk to me and hire us to make it.
Absolutely.
Although We Are PF they're great folks too. Karen and her team are really solid. Mike, I think we're going to kind of land the plane here. If you were just talking to, whether it's someone who's starting up a firm or someone who wants to just really get serious about their firm today, what is the advice that you're going to give them? What sorts of things are you going to point them to as far as their first steps or what you think that they should focus on?
I would say we've talked about a lot that actually would lend very well to this answer. And that is not only AI, community, but just doing it and ripping that Band-Aid off. I would really strongly suggest anybody who's thinking about starting a firm, join at least one community, put themselves out there. The one that comes to mind is Counter from Logan Graff, because he's really almost sole purpose is to try and help people into that.
Yeah.
But again, it is a leap of faith. Entrepreneurship, no matter how you cut it, nothing is guaranteed. And so you really have to understand what you're getting into. But the good news is there's just a plethora of information out there to help you with almost every single situation you could possibly think of. And with the people out there that are so giving, that helps considerably as well. It's interesting. I was actually helping Karbon with a kind of state of the report of AI for 2025. And one of the main things we were talking about was just really ensuring, what does this look like? Like, what does the landscape look like in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now? Mm-hmm. And I actually put a heavier emphasis on the AI piece than I did the accounting piece, even if you're talking about starting an accounting firm. And it's not because I think AI is more important than accounting, but AI is moving faster. And if there's something you can do and something you can learn to help you build your business in a faster way to get you to that first client or that 100th client, I think you should spend a lot of energy, efforts, and focus on that. So talk to people, take that leap, invest in AI, invest in yourself, tools, and you can't lose.
This has been a great conversation. Mike, where can people find you? And is there anything you would want to point them to? Our audience is mostly accounting firm owners and some folks who work at accounting firms but wear the marketing hat. Where can they find you? And
yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, just Mike Libby, Libbey. Most people don't remember or realize that. So find me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect. We're just ybl.ca. And one of my favorite things to do is speak with other firm owners. Again, whether they're just starting their journey or they're considerably further ahead than me. I love hearing those experiences and helping out. So, yeah, I appreciate you having me, my friend. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you. Really appreciate it.
All right. This has been the Marketing for Accounting Firms podcast. My name is Matt Banker. You can find us at marketingforaccountingfirms.com. You can find me on X and on LinkedIn, Matt Banker. We have a marketing community called the Marketing Incubator. You can get information about that at the website. And I think with that, we will leave it there. All right, I have Matt Patrick and Shelby Betts here. They are from Works, and Works happens to be one of the sponsors of this season of the Marketing for Accounting Firms podcast. And so we want to do a little bit of a deep dive into what is Works, how do they work with accounting firms, and just for clarity's sake, if you're just listening to this on audio, that's WHIRKS. So it's Works, and they handle payroll, which is related to the other version of Work. But You're an accounting firm owner. You had a payroll practice, and then Works grew out of that. Can you tell us a little bit about where it came from and why does this company exist?
Yeah, like most accounting firm owners, I think in the very beginning, a client said, "Hey, can you help me with my payroll?" And we said, "I think I can. Let me see what I can do." And like most firms, we started having to do payroll and quickly realized that, hey, it's a little bit different business model. Every day is a deadline. There's very harsh penalties for doing things wrong. People don't get paid. People get really mad. And that's where it started for me. It was like client one, if I think back to the very beginning of my firm. Over time, we were starting to figure out systems and processes and what does it really look like to have a payroll business. And probably around 2011, 2012, we separated into a separate brand called Patrick Payroll at the time, very creative name. We still were doing payroll for our accounting clients. We felt like we had to. We really weren't selling payroll separately from our traditional accounting practice, but we had the desire, like, let's do it. If we're going to do this, let's do this right. And we explored a bunch of different software, a bunch of different systems. We started off in the very beginning doing QuickBooks Desktop. Then it went to Thomson Reuters product. And I explored every potential software that I could possibly find to do this work, either that or I outsourced to ADP for about 90 days. I used ExecuPay for about 90 days. I went on this whole journey and going, this isn't what I want. This still isn't good enough. I wanted to be able to do my clients' payroll really well and service them with all the things that I knew they really needed. A true RIS, if you would. They had all the tools you need to have in a payroll lifecycle, from applicant tracking to analytics. Time and attendance, all the things. We were bolting a bunch of different things on to make that work really well. And at the same time, our clients were going, yeah, the system that you have isn't great. I want to find something a little bit better, but man, I love working with you guys. And so it just was constant pressure. So we were lucky enough to be an iSolve partner in around 2016. So like I said, it's been 4 or 5 years since we've separated the brand at this point. We're still not happy with where we're going. So we became a partner. We're one of, I don't know, there's 150 years in the country. But within that, it allowed us really a clear understanding of this is a real software that can do all the different things that our clients, our small business accounting clients need, but also it allowed us to really scale to work with any type of payroll client. And that process for us went through a rebranding as well. We ended up rebranding to Works. The idea behind that was, from a standpoint of what we want to be here, it needs to be somewhat tech oriented to be able to partner with accounting firms. It was a very intentional thing from us at the beginning, because I know on my end, on the accounting side, that the options work great.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, there's so many better ways to do this. I can dictate the terms a little bit as an accountant, of how I get my data in and how I get my data out and where I want the data to go. And I want to control the relationship with the client a little bit easier. So all that stuff just became super important to us in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And so that's how we evolved to where we are today.
So something that I think, Matt, you have a reputation amongst your peers as someone who's always trying to figure out the best way to do things, and you're testing out new products and services and all that. And so often on the leading edge, it sounds like a big part of this was you as a firm owner going out and figuring out what's the best way to do this, to do payroll within your firm. Shelby, help us understand what's different about Works than something like ADP or Paychex or some of these other kind of bigger tech platforms that a lot of firms end up partnering with and using when they do payroll.
I think there's two primary differences. Number one is we are an accounting firm first. And so in terms of like how to run a successful payroll service bureau, that's something that we've been crafting and honing and refining for a long time. And so if you're an accounting firm and you want to grow a payroll service line from a profitability standpoint, we're a team that knows how to do that on both sides of the house, right? We can help you deliver that in terms of offering a payroll that makes sense for any client you're going to go prospect and target. And you've got our team that's also in the background trying to run a great payroll service practice. And so I think different than an ADP or a Gusto, they're just a payroll company. So they don't know the complexity and the intricacies of what it's like to run an accounting practice. Mm-hmm. We do. And so there's challenges that go along with that. And we really are scaled to help another accounting firm think through all those intricacies because we're working on those things ourselves. So I think that's a big differentiator. I think the second is I'm reluctant to even say it because it's service and everyone says differentiators are services, but our team really does care and we want to help you grow and be successful. And Matt's name, my name, our team's name. And so we're a little different in that. Granted, we're not the size of an ADP or a Gusto, but if you wanted to have a partner helping you run a service bureau and you wanted a partnership where you're known and the people that are working with you, you're certainly going to get that with our team.
I think of this sometimes as an on-ramp. A lot of times firms are in a position of they don't really know where they're going when it comes to all their services, but also what are the financial constraints that those decisions have to invest in some of these platforms as a whole. You're talking a couple $250,000. And yet also there's also people resources to that you have to add. That doesn't make sense for where you are today, but maybe down the road that would make sense. But you have to be able to have the right next step. And so I find our partner arrangement is that way. Our goal is when we talk about bringing a partner, it's how do we lose them as a partner? How long is it going to take? Because we want that to be the case, that we lose them as a partner, but how do we help them grow to where they're on their own?
Yeah.
Likely though, they don't even know where they are yet. They may go, I think I want to do this. I've got 150 clients and I've got one person doing payroll. Do I need to go hire a salesperson? Do I need to go get another payroll person? And I have to invest in this technology. That math doesn't always math. We want to make sure that we understand that. They feel like I can go to an ADP or Gusto and get the software right now on a a la carte basis. And there's a piece that they'll do themselves, ADP or Gusto would do. And there's a piece that they'll have to do themselves. But they're losing a lot of control on how is that client going to be onboarded. It's the control you have as far as scalability. What happens if you're with ADP Run and now you have 100 employees? Like you have to convert over to a different platform. And so there's just some things there that aren't as crystal clear. And I would imagine that ADP is not looking to grow you out of ADP. The cost of software as a whole, when we've done the math, you're not winning. You're getting a discount. You're getting a wholesale price, but you're not doing a scalable price. And so the math doesn't start mathing at some point. And then we also have I don't want to worry about payroll. I don't want to get into payroll at all, but I have a group of clients I want to be really served really well and make my accounting life easier for that as well. So we give them a couple paths and both of them, our goal is I'm a big believer that everybody has to win. The math pretty heavily and go, we could do this, but it doesn't make sense for you to do this because this is the math.
Yeah.
But this is a better option for you. We want to talk through what that looks like from a scale standpoint.
When we work with accounting firms that have a payroll department and we're trying to help them understand what is the differentiator between their clients could choose to just go directly to an ADP or use a Gusto. The number one complaint and the reason that people switch payroll providers is usually they had a bad customer service experience with one of these larger companies. They're generally not built to maximize that customer service.
There are a little bit of self-service models.
Yeah.
They know that. I think most accounting firms probably like the idea of I partner with them. I can be the buffer between ADP and Gusto and my client.
Yeah.
And while that's true, you're still at ADP or Gusto's mercy of servicing you.
So
and
the difference is that works.
Like each company's, look, I'm not trying to disparage them. They've grown amazing businesses.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're not helping me get to my ultimate goal. That is where I look at this from the standpoint of if you're just using a software only, it's like anything else. As long as the service works, it's fine. But if it doesn't work, what happens then?
Yeah. Let me address maybe one of the big objections or possibilities here is, Matt, you own an accounting firm and you partner with other accounting firms on the payroll side. Why are they worried that you're just going to steal other clients and sell them accounting services as well?
No.
Very, very clear lines there.
No.
First of all, we work with partners right now all over the country. Our goal with this is those are very hard lines. We're not trying to sell them accounting services at all. Partners are they're our biggest customer. I'll be honest with it. I mean, our partner relationships are our most important customers. We're not going to step on underlying clients. We want to make sure that we give them all the resources they have to make that partnership successful. And from the standpoint of educating them on how to sell additional services of the Works brand, what that partnership looks like. We want to compensate. I want to pay them a lot of money. Even in our own town, we generally don't feel like we compete on accounting clients. It's not a thing.
No, and just to speak to that, it works. And so if they're a network partner, their client's never interacting with us, right? They're supporting their client. We're helping them run a service bureau. And so they're using us for technology and support, but they're interacting with their client. So in that network relationship, their client is never interacting with us. So they wouldn't even know who Works is. Our referral partners, though, they know us and we support and service them, but we service them as a Works team. And so they don't even know the Patrick Accounting brand, nor would they have a reason to. So I think, again, part of that designation of the brand is to make sure those lines are really clear. And so we've got good parameters in place to make sure referral partners, they're interacting with us as a payroll company only. And then our network partners, of course, their clients not interacting with us. So I think those are two ways that also helps
Yeah. And I think
delineate those lines.
and I think how I think of this too is I want to see their success just as much as I want to see our success. I really believe that part of our goal here is to educate them on how to run better practices. We give them tips and tricks that we've learned, mistakes we've made over the years. I want to see their success. And we've had a partner graduate recently, and that graduation turned into it's a great thing. That's the goal. You did this with the intent of moving on past us and growing your business. That's perfectly fine. I want to be that intermediary, and which I'm perfectly fine with.
Yeah. We've got a great salesperson on the call here. Shelby, do you want to give us what do you tell potential accounting firm practice owners who want to add this payroll practice and want to partner with Works? Can you kind of walk us through what that process looks like, or how do they know if they're going to be a good fit? And then what's it going to look like in terms of onboarding?
I would say if, you're a CPA practice and you're frustrated by the vendors that you're using for payroll, like an ADP or Augusto, you're not experiencing good support or service model, it's possible that we could be a better solution. If you are that practice that knows you want payroll to be this really profitable service line for you, and so you're going to grow that alongside of your accounting practice, you're committed to that, but you're not quite ready to make that $250,000 investment into an iSolved or an ExecuPay or one of those platforms, it's possible that we could be a really great in-between step, as Matt has said. And so I think if you're puzzling through either one of those two issues, that's probably a good reason for us to have a conversation. In terms of what we want to do in that process, we really just want to help you figure out who's the best fit. And that's not always going to be us. We have a specific way we want to do things. We have a specific way we want to help you run a service bureau. You may not be committed to that model, and that's okay. So I think if those are two major pain points that are going on, let's have the conversation. And then through those conversations, we'll try to evaluate and get a sense of, hey, I think, yeah, you're a great fit and here's what that could look like. Or I really want to suggest you move it over here. And I actually think you should do this. And so I think we're here to help in both of those situations. But if we determine it's a good fit, obviously our next steps, we want to help you get clients onboarded as quickly as possible. We're moving towards year end now, and timing wise, it could be a really good time to make a move if it's something that you're interested in. But yeah, we want to get clients converted over quickly. We want to help you know how to run a successful support team as quickly as possible. So those are going to be two things that we focus on early in that process as a network partner.
Yeah.
If you're just referring us business, on my side, I want to make it really clear to you about all the things we can do, all of the ways we can help your clients. And so you have a good sense of what are the things that I need in order to sell this to my client. So we try to give as many resources as possible to our referral partners. We're happy to obviously jump in at any time, but want to be really supportive and educate them on what we do and how we do it and who's a good fit and who's not.
Yeah.
One of the things I was talking about is onboarding process. One of the things that can come up as a challenge people feel about is how onboarding works. We own all the transition of the client from the back end. We will train your team and then support your team in their training of new clients on any technology they need to have trained on. We're going to control that from a project plan standpoint and make sure what's the plan of getting everybody transitioned and how long is that going to take. We have a lot of information about pricing on how that works on our website. But more importantly, it's like knowing that, look, we're here to support you. We're not going to damage any of your credibility with your client. Make sure that your clients are being properly served at all times.
Yeah. Obviously, we all want to make money, right? And so you want to find a partner where, a payroll partner where it can be profitable. But more importantly, I think as a business owner, and accounting is a trust business, you know that if you make a referral or if you partner with someone else, the most important thing for you is your reputation. And knowing that any of your clients, if they're working with someone else on your good word, you need to know that they're going to be able to deliver on that. And the thing I'll just say here as we wrap up is for our podcast and all this, we don't just take any sponsors. There's a lot of software companies out there. It's really important to us that we're vetting the folks that sponsor the podcast and that we give a platform to. And I do really know that Works and Shelby and their team are a really solid group of people who I would say authentically wanting the success of the partners and the other accounting firm owners that they interact with. Where can they find you? What would be the next steps if some of our listeners are interested in having a conversation?
Yeah, so lots of resources on our website. If you'll go to works.com/partners, WHIRKS, click into that partners, there's 2 pathways you'll see, which will include that kind of network partnership. So CPA practice wanting to do payroll, or I don't want to do payroll and outsource it entirely. You'll see both of those pathways. We list out pricing so you can get a good sense for what the investment would be on both sides of that, if that's of interest. And so I would say if you're thinking about it and interested, check out our website. You can book a call directly with us from there, or just learn a little bit more through the videos and the articles that we have available. Outside of that, of course, you can get in touch with any of us. You can find me and Matt on LinkedIn, pretty active posters. So you can message us, reach out directly. We're here to help.
All right, very good. Thank you both again for unpacking that. Any last thoughts?
No, thank you for the opportunity, Matt. Looking
Yeah,
forward.
thanks for letting us be on.
All right. So go check out Works again. And schedule a call with Shelby. I think she'll be able to help answer all your questions. With that, we're going to leave it there. Thanks.